And it's an off season that seems massively long, but seems to be getting it is getting shorter every week. But it seems to be getting quicker, and stuff's starting to pick up now. Rumours are flying. Free agents want re-signing. The draft's coming around. Mock drafts everywhere. Have you had time to process the off season yet, Xavier?
Yeah, I've actually kind of taken a little bit of time off of making content just to kind of take a look at everyone's roster, kind of see what everyone's doing, stuff like that. Look at a lot of the cuts, a lot of the pickups, stuff like that. People they can get, and it's been interesting. It's been interesting to say the least. There's not been as much movement as I would have expected at this point. I figured there's a lot of teams that were going to be scrambling to get certain players and scrambling to get a quarterback, like the Steelers, Washington, for example. I thought them were two guys that were going to take a shot at Darnold, yet we really heard nothing about that. I thought we were going to be guys who were going to take a shot at Darnold, and it just kind of never came to fruition. I should say, but that's something that's going to happen. I was really high on Darnold. You were as well. We talked about it a bunch of times on this channel. Yeah. It's interesting to see where he goes. Hopefully it's a good team. Hopefully he doesn't have to go to the Dolphin situation or something like that.
Yeah. It's been one of them. It was a crazy season. I think we're all just thankful we got the season in the end. At one point, it looked like it wasn't going to happen. You mentioned Sam Darnold. Obviously, like you said, massive fans of his. I think he's massively underrated because of his situation. For me, getting Darnold would have been more expensive, but better in the long run rather than going with Carson Wentz. But we trust Chris Ballard. We should trust Chris Ballard with his previous track record with making trades for players. So getting into today's show, let's talk about free agents. Free agency is...
A lot of people were throwing Green Bay in there. A lot of people were throwing the Bills in there as well. So there's 4 teams there that everyone kind of thought that were locks for him to go to. And then out of the blue, he signs to the Cardinals for a pretty hefty paycheck as well. So I think it was more about competing on one side. Like, I guess he just wanted to compete. He didn't necessarily want a title. I think he just wants to compete in the league. And then 2, financial security as well, because, at the end of the day, this is a person trying to make himself a way in the world. As much as JJ Watt's made all these commercials and stuff like that, he still needs that blanket. In this world, anything can go wrong, especially in the United States at any time. So, at least he didn't go to the AFC. That's all I got to say. Thank you for not going to the Browns.
Yeah. Good friend of the show, Tom. Zach Ertz rumors to the Colts are starting to surface. Yes. I've seen this a lot. I'll say why I personally don't think we go after Zach Ertz, and then I'll let Xavier already say. We don't go after Zach Ertz because of 2 people, Jack Doyle, Mo Ali Cox. We don't need Zach Ertz. Although, yes, I would love to have Zach Ertz, and any team would be lucky to have him. We don't need to take the cap hit on a tight end right now. Xavier?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I would say that Ertz is just kind of a guy that it would just be like too much. It's just too much money for what he would bring at this age. Now, I think Zach Ertz would definitely be tight end number 1 for us, but he's not the same guy that we saw 2-3 years ago. He's not that guy anymore. From what I've seen on him, he just don't look the same. He still looks like a great guy. Still looks like a tight end number 1, but like you said, when we got guys like Mo Ali Cox and Jack Doyle, and honestly, possibly Trey Burton coming back yet again, I feel like our tight end room is just right where it needs to be, especially with how our team's looking at the moment.
I love. It's no secret that as Colts fans, we love Chris Ballard, and that's just what we've seen him develop over the 4 years of being here. and he's always honest. You know, he will never backstab a guy. He'll never not tell him why. And I think it's fair to say he's come out and said, you know, we'd love to re-sign T.Y. Hilton. We'd love to re-sign Xavier Rhodes, but he just doesn't think he can give the guys the deal that they deserve. Is this good GMing, or does he need to be more aggressive and throw out these deals?
Yeah, I would think it's good GMing. You know, I've been a Colts fan my whole life, so it's hard for me to talk about who we should re-sign, especially when it comes to veterans, especially T.Y. Hilton. You know, I've loved T.Y. Hilton. He's been one of my favorite receivers for years. But it's coming to reality that, you know, he's getting older. You know, this guy wants $15 million a year to play football. He needs to look at the bigger picture. If you're a real Colts fan, if you're a real ride or die Colts fanatic, you know, I'm not saying you would take that pay cut, because at the end of the day, like I was talking about J.J. Watt, you know, you want your money, but you got to look at the situation. There's a lot of people that are younger than you that are going to be franchise cornerstones. Your time is up. You're not the franchise cornerstone anymore. You know, at some point you got to take that pay cut. At some point you got to look, you got to be objective. You're going to be like, all right, well, I can go somewhere else and get paid, you know, and be productive there, or I can stay with my team. You know, it's just two things. It's weighing the balances. I think Ballard's playing it the correct way. I think he's told T.Y. Hilton, I'll give you this much. If you come back and play, this is all I can give you. If T.Y. says no, hey, it's whatever. He'll still be remembered a Colt for life. He's going to be Ring of Honor for sure. And I hope he does good wherever he goes. And then Xavier Rhodes, on the other hand, you know, he's a guy that came here this year. He had excellent production. He was number one in open space. Now, there's this weird statistic I figured out about last year, and it ranks defensive players based on how they do in open space relative to where the ball is thrown. So if a guy's in zone coverage and the ball is thrown underneath and Xavier Rhodes is underneath, he was the number one corner in the league at making that tackle underneath. So he was excellent this year in tackling ball carriers. He was a great player this year. Now, do we throw him a big deal? That's hard. That's a tough decision, and that's on Ballard. He has to evaluate this player. You know, he's got to say, are you going to be good for the next 2 years on this roster? Because if he could be, then, hey, get him back in here. He had a great year this year. But if not, then maybe let him walk, try to find a better situation there.
Yeah. Crazy time, you know. I'm guessing you saw the picture or the graph, shall I say, and it was like the most prepared team with draft hit coming into the draft, and the Colts were at the top of it. Basically saying, you know, Chris Ballard's done an amazing job at protecting cap space as well as getting a consistent team. And it's really testament to him, I suppose, when, you know, you look at the squad he'd taken over, it was a bad place to be. You know, as much as we love the Indianapolis Colts, under Coach Pagano and Ryan Grigson, it was just not a very nice place to be. He's came in, he's gutted the locker room, he's redone it all, you know, and a team is now, Indianapolis is now a team where players want to come. So I think the market's there to let these big names go out and get their deal, because I think somebody else is always going to want to come to the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, I would agree with you 100% on that. I think he's done an excellent job at just bringing in talent, finding people to come in here and play for us through the draft yet again that are going to be productive. Excuse me. You know, he's just been just like the saving grace. You know, once Andrew Luck retired, man, that was just like, we're going downhill. We're done. We're poverty the next like 5-6 seasons. It's, you know, it was just a bad time to be a Colts fan. But, you know, Ballard's worked miracles. So anyone that tries to argue with me that Ballard's not the number one GM in the league, I'm sorry. I don't care what you want to bring up. Ballard has been that guy. He's made the acquisitions. He's, you know, almost played it flawless, you know, other than, you know, a couple mess ups. And you really can't even call T.Y. Rocky Ascent a mess up. You know, he's been but like average in the league. I mean, maybe a little bit below average, but still, yet it's not like he's had any busts. That's the point. And then went out and got guys like Darius Leonard in the second round, Braden Smith in the second round, 2 All-Pro guys, Quentin Nelson, of course, no introduction. It's just been crazy. It's just been crazy what kind of miracles he's worked.
It's funny, you talk about Quentin Nelson, you talk about Darius Leonard, Braden Smith as well. I think does not get enough recognition for the talent he has. Darius Leonard, worst draft pick. Quentin Nelson, you can't take a guard that high. It feels very. I can't remember who our GM was back in the day because I only became a Colts fan in 2007. But the famous Mel Kiper and the Colts GM battle. I think it was like the 99 draft, was it? Manning and Leaf.
Yeah.
It was very. Everyone else is saying you can't take a guard that high. And Chris Ballard's gone, well, that's Quentin Nelson. That just isn't any other guard. That's Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, that's right. He looked at Quentin Nelson and knew that he was going to be an all-pro player. I don't know if he knew he was going to be all-pro first year, but Quentin Nelson was on a warpath to get that award. I can't lie to you. But, yeah, it comes with, I guess, being confident in your analysis of players. And that's something Ballard is. He has a really, really good understanding of what his draft experts are showing him and what he's looking at, being able to analyze stuff like that. The connection he has with the scouts just must be legendary. I don't know, how he found these guys. I don't know, because scouts come and go. Scouts move up and down the ladder all the time. So for him to have constant success, even in Kansas City, you got to think about that. He drafted Tyreek Hill. He drafted Travis Kelce. He drafted Frank Clark. Yeah, all these great players. He had success there. Then comes to Indy and has success here. So it's got to be him. He's got to be teaching these scouts something. It's trickling down in the organization. Just hats off to him for it.
Yeah. Coming into this draft, anyone you particularly like? I know you said you want edge. Do we trade up to get the edge? Do we trade back?
There's a couple guys. I like Kwity Paye. I think he'll go a little too high though.
Yeah.
I love Gregory Rousseau. He was like 2 or 3 months ago before everyone started like hyping the draft. Before everyone gets on that it's draft time thing.
Yeah.
Gregory Rousseau was a top 10 pick. He was like considered top 10 pick 100%. Now he's dropped into like the 26, 27 range somehow. I personally do not see that happening. If he is on the board when the Raiders are on the board, he's gone. I will 100% guarantee you that because they need edge rusher. They need help on that defensive line. But if we could somehow get Gregory Rousseau, maybe move up, 6, 7 picks just to get him, I would be all for it. I think that guy is a generational talent. I think he's being slept on heavily just because he sat out of this season, which I didn't blame him. COVID season, you're given an opportunity to opt out. You was already the best edge rusher the year before. Why play? You're going to get drafted. You've got it at that point. So I think he would be our best case scenario. We might get him, we might not. Whoever does is going to be really happy though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy one, especially for Colts fans this draft because we could go. It's sort of because we're in the unknown and it could go in any direction, which makes it so interesting. Now we've got Carson. We are not a team that needs a quarterback this season. We're not a team, but we are a team that could do with several positions, but we don't really need the positions. It's just crazy times from Tom saying sign a left tackle at 21. Yes, there was a tweet that went out. I think it was the Colts Brawl Network that said if you could resign, any player in their prime to the Colts team, who would it be? I said Anthony Costanzo. By any chance, what I'd do to have him back for another 3-4 years. Is there a tackle talent at 21, or do we drop to get a tackle?
That's a good question because I really haven't got a gauge of what people like in this class yet. I haven't got a gauge of where people want to draft this because there's people people have them here and there, have their rankings. And I released my top 10 tackle rankings the other day, actually. If I can find it here. Yeah, right here. So I was the way I looked at it. I looked at who were the best talents. Who I thought were going to be fitting in more schemes than others. So with a guy like Rashawn Slater, a lot of people had Rashawn Slater at number 2. I have him at number 3, and that's just because he's 6'2", 6'3". He's not a big guy. He's like guard size in the NFL. So if you're an undersized left tackle, there's a lot of GMs that won't sign you just based on how you have a shorter wingspan compared to a lot of defensive ends, like Myles Garrett, someone like that. Myles Garrett has incredibly long arms and he's incredibly fast off the edge. So it'd be really difficult for Rashawn Slater to block somebody like that. But if these two players were available at 21, I would probably take them. And that would be Samuel Cosme out of Texas. He's an excellent guy. I don't know if you know who Zach Hicks is. He's on Twitter, but he compares him to Bakhtiari. I think that's a little gracious, but he's got that kind of he's got that kind of potential to him. He's strong base, very good footwork. He's an excellent player. And then number 5, Dylan Redunds, guy coming out of North Dakota State, actually plays with Trey Lance right now. I was hoping to get both of them in this draft somehow. I was just thinking about it. I was like, left tackle and quarterback duo, that'd be great. But he's an excellent player as well, and he can play guard and tackle. So, if, in case a guard goes down, we can drop him over to right guard or something, throw in a better tackle if we have one, something like that. So, them were my 2 guys, Samuel Cosme, Dylan Redunds. Be great to get them.
Yeah. Switching back to free agents, before the offseason, there was a lot of talk about Marlon Mack and coming back to the Colts. Going into the offseason, it seems to quieten down a little bit, obviously, because Phillip Rivers announced his retirement. So it all sort of focused on that. But getting back to our running back room, Jonathan Taylor, Nahim Heinz, I forgot the other, Wilkins?
Yep.
I forgot. Yeah. Do we have room to hopefully? I want us to re-sign Marlon Mack, just because I think if Jonathan Taylor or Heinz gets injured, then we need that extra player in there. But do we have the room to re-sign him?
That's a good question because, he deserves money. I'm going to be honest. He is coming off that ankle injury, and that's a big if. That's a big question mark for any team.
Yeah.
Because Achilles injuries tend to ruin players' careers. Rest in peace, but Kobe Bryant's kind of a big example of that. He never was the same after the Achilles injury. So hopefully he gets healthy, But if I'm going to be honest here, we got 2 guys that are number 1 running back material and number 2 running back that could be number 1 running back material, Nahim Heinz and Jonathan Taylor. They're just great players. And I've seen a couple people on Twitter talk about maybe drafting a running back late in the round just for that scenario. In case somebody goes down, we have somebody that's going to be on a cheap contract, going to be at a rookie deal, and we can progress into the system. But when it comes to Marlon Mack, he's kind of got a special spot in my heart because the first running back, they run for 1,000 yards in 8 or 9 seasons or something for the Colts. So yeah, it's just a tough decision. I couldn't make it if I was a GM. I wouldn't know what to do, honestly.
Yeah, we love Marlon Mack. He was just an absolute breath of fresh air. We love Frank Gore as well, but he was the old veteran. He was a power runner. And then Marlon Mack came in and was doing things that we hadn't seen since Joseph Adai days. Another one as well, Anthony Walker. Darius Leonard credits a lot to Anthony Walker. Says Anthony Walker doesn't get the respect he deserves. They're like brothers when you see him playing. They help each other out, they pick each other up, and they'll call each other out. I'm sure they will. do we re-sign Anthony Walker? Or, we got Bobby Okereke coming through. There's other players available. So what's his situation?
I like Anthony Walker as what he brings. As a smart player, kind of the on-field coach, he knows a lot about the game of football. And if, Ballard's talked about if he's not playing, he's going to be coaching. So obviously he has a very in-depth knowledge of how the game of football works. And that's always great to have around on your team. But my issue with Anthony Walker is he's well below average linebacker. It's just how it is. That's what his production was this year. You could almost say the same about Bobby Okereke, but Bobby Okereke making a few big plays and being 230 running a 4.4, that kind of saves him. He's a super athlete. But Anthony Walker's just not that. And if you go watch any Titans games, Roger Saffold eats him for dinner. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a left guard. Just kills him every play I watch of him. And again, it's no hate to him because I think what he brings as a leader is much more valuable than people really take into account when it comes to these players in the NFL, because there's a lot of players that just aren't leaders like him. But if he wants a big contract, I just don't think it would be practical at all to re-sign him. If he would take a team-friendly deal, great. You'd be a great player to have, keep in the rotation. But if he wants big bucks, he needs to go somewhere else.
Let's talk about cap space. Even with the Carson Wentz trade, we are still looking very, very healthy on cap room and cap space coming into next year. One team that isn't is the Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay, who are going to need to shuffle some pieces to make that cap team work because, Tom Brady's earned his contract. Antonio Brown's going to want a juicy bonus. Pierre Paul's going to want something decent because he was phenomenal in that Super Bowl game and stuff like that. So can you see, anyone from Tampa Bay coming over to the AFC side maybe?
Yeah, possibly. It just depends on who it is. Like JPP is a great example. That guy used to, rock out up in New York. He was a beast.
8-1 in the playoffs.
Yeah, just absolute stud. 5% body fat at 280 pounds, 6'5". The guy was a genetic freak. Yeah. I think people called him Mutant. I think that was his nickname for a while. He was just crazy. And then that incident, I don't remember what it was, but he hurt his hand somehow.
Is it a firework or something?
Oh yeah, that's right. He's playing with cherry bombs or something and put his hand off. Yeah. That's always unfortunate when stuff like that happens. But I still think he's a great player. Especially this year, like watching him play, age really hasn't done anything to him. I think he's great off the edge. I think he's physical on the edge, most of all. Stop the run out there. If we could get him, kind of in a different role, maybe for us, of course he's going to play that 4-3, but he doesn't have to start all the time. Maybe kind of 60-40 his reps, give him 60, give someone else 40, keep him fresh. Again, even though he's been playing great, when he's older, there's no reason to put the workload on him, especially when we got other guys like Muhammad Wilkerson, guys like that, Kamoko Toure, that are trying to get better. We got a good young rotation. We need some guys to come in there, mentor them, and take over that workload until they're ready to take it over. So, yeah, I think he would be a great player to pick up.
Yeah. Obviously, it looks like Justin Houston has played his last year as a Colt. Just from age, I think he wants a bit more money than what we can offer him, which is fair enough. But again, regression in age, maybe not as good as he was a year ago. So, with guys like you say, like Grover, Stewart, Kamoko Toure, and others, is this a priority for the Colts to sort out in the offseason, or is this we can let it go for a year?
That's a hard question to answer. only because we don't know how these guys are developing. I don't know how Kamoko Toure is looking. I've only heard good things about him, but he came off an injury this season and hopped back in this season. And I kind of got my expectations a little too high for a guy just coming off a serious injury, like middle of the season. Like I was like, oh, Kamoko Toure is going to come back and kill it. In reality, that wasn't happening, but I think he is an excellent talent. I think he's going to have a fantastic year next year. I don't want to guarantee anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw 10 sacks from him. Like the guy is just that kind of athlete. He looked half a step slow this year. He's going to be full speed next year. He had some good reps against Bakhtiari as well that really kind of sold me on him being a good player. But yeah, it's hard to say that these guys will be able to step up for sure next year. We need people that are going to be there and being productive for sure. That's kind of why I'm a big advocate for Carl Lawson, because I think defensive end is the second most important position in football behind quarterback, especially in today's game. If you're not getting pressures, if you're not getting sacks, if you're not disrupting the quarterback, you're going to get picked apart. It's just how it works today.
Are we in our Super Bowl window?
Yeah, I think we got a huge Super Bowl window compared to half the fan base thinks. But I think we're going to be in a Super Bowl window for the next 5 to 6 years, as long as we tie these players up that are going to be corner or franchise players.
Yeah. With the signing of Carson Wentz, Jacob Eason is arguably going to be taking a back seat for, again, another year. What does this mean for Jacob Eason's career? And is he just going to be backup fodder?
That's a good question. Mm-hmm. I think Jacob Eason is going to be back up this year. I think they're going to keep growing him. I think they're going to keep looking at him to hopefully be the guy, because I'm going to be honest, it doesn't seem like our coaching staff is sold completely on Carson Wentz. It doesn't seem like our whole organization is sold on him. Like there hasn't been.
Oh, no, I'm not.
They're like I was. Okay, I'll be honest. I've been at Carson Wentz. I have been. I've said it multiple times. I want Carson Wentz. But no one in the organizations came out and been like, oh, we got Carson Wentz, blah, blah, blah. I know it's still in trade talks. Like the trade can't go through until free agency starts. But it's like it just seems like it would be different. It just seems like we still got a little bit of that gloom. So I don't know how they're thinking about that. Maybe they're bringing him on to mentor Eason, and hopefully Eason takes over in 3 to 4 years or something. I don't know. I'm a big believer in Carson Wentz. Hopefully we can get him turned around, because I think he can be an elite player any day of the week, as long as he has the right things around him. But it's interesting. It's interesting for sure. Jacob Eason's got that big arm. I mean, if worse comes to worse, we're going to see the second strongest arm in the league take over for us. So can't be that bad.
I've not been Carson's biggest fan, but then, looking past it with the just blatant NFL fan eyes and more of breaking stuff down, he's not going to get sacked 50 times in one season at Indianapolis. That is just not going to happen. You look at, I can't name one of his wide receivers, and granted, I'm not a Philadelphia fan, but if you name another team, and I can probably name one receiver, I can't really name one receiver. Saka I think he was injured last year, or he didn't have a great year.
Yeah, he's injured.
He was injured. These are all things that are going to get to a quarterback, especially a quarterback that doesn't like his head coach. And he sort of seems to be relieved that he's back with Frank Reich. What I will say, though, is granted the situation with COVID and it's the off-season, I was expecting to see an interview video with Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts media I was expecting to see at least a training video of him at the training ground. I don't know if, like you said, it's because it can only go through once free agency opens. Technically the trade, so I don't. Is like you say, is it just not everybody's sold on him, or do you think I'm reading too much into it?
I don't know. It's just been the lack of talking about him that's really been killing me. Now maybe they're not allowed to contractually because of he's not here, and if that's the case, then all right, I'll shut up. But I don't know. It just no one's talking about it. No one's like, oh, we got Carson Wentz. The day is saved. Like no one's saying shit. I'm just over here, just kind of like on the edge of my seat, waiting. But I'm a big believer again. I'm not gonna downplay it. I think he's going to be great for us. I honestly think he's going to like launch us into Super Bowl contention. That's big words. That's a lot of talk coming out of a Colts fan, but I think it's happening. I think that's what he's here to do.
Oh yeah, like I said, I wasn't his biggest fan, and I still believe we should have gone after Sam Darnold, but he is now our quarterback, which means I'm going to back him to the hills, like I will do every single Colts player. So yeah, it's just going to be a fascinating season. An off season. I hope we get a full off season. Because I really want to see a full range of Jacob Eason in this offense, and I think it'd be lovely to see. But yeah, is there anything else we need to talk about Colts wise?
They just released Carlos Dunlap. It's more of the NFL, but as a guy that went to the Seahawks and was supposed to be their saving grace edge rusher at the age of 33. It didn't turn out. He could be a good player for us to pick up, but he would kind of be in that Ryan Kerrigan role where he just kind of comes in off the bench, He's productive. He'd actually be more like what Justin Houston was. Justin Houston would come off the bench. He's kind of more physical than Justin Houston is, though, at this age. Mm-hmm. He could play the run better, but he wouldn't be like anything crazy. He wouldn't be like a Carl Lawson pickup or something. I tweet him every time I get on there. I'm like, yo, Carl Lawson. And he come to Indianapolis, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get him. Let's talk about, because we still have a bit of time, the AFC South in general. Interesting division. The Colts to lose, I would say. The Titans, this is the thing, the Titans are going to get figured out. As much as Titan fans are going to be like, oh, they're salty, blah, 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 blah. You can only run so many plays with Derrick Henry. And, I love Derrick Henry. He's an excellent player. Of course, he is 2,000 rushing yards this year. But people are going to switch on. And people are going to work you out. It just happens in the NFL. The Texans are a hot mess, so I can see them going 0-16, maybe 1-15 like the Jags did. And the Jags are an interesting team. Urban Meyer's now in there. Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence is going to be, one of them's going to be their quarterback, unless they absolutely mess it up and take a left guard or something. So, what are your far too early predictions for the AFC South?
I think we win it. I think we go. Yeah. I'm going to say we're going 12-4 this year. We're going to win the AFC South. I think the Titans will finish second. I think they'll be 9 and I think they'll be. I'll give them a little bit more space. I think they'll go 10-6. Mm-hmm. They've had a lot of injuries this year. They're missing Adoree Jackson. They had a lot of older backups. Like they even had a veteran 35-year-old corner. He'd been playing since I was been watching football, man, in there this year. What was his name? Jonathan Joseph. They had Jonathan Joseph in there this year. He wasn't even fun to watch, man. It was just bad. He's getting burnt left and right. So they're going to have Adoree Jackson back. They're going to have Malcolm Butler over there on the other side. They're going to have Darius Byrd. Then hopefully, for their sake, they get an edge rusher. Now, if they don't get an edge rusher, I'm going back to my 9-7 prediction. But if they get an edge rusher, I think they win another game, maybe even 2. They might even go 11-5. But it's just if they can get that figured out, because they were like 30th in the league in generating pressure last year. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's not going to work in the NFL.
No.
But for them, I'll go conservative. I'm going to say they're going to go 9-7. And then Texans, man, if Deshaun Watson doesn't stay there, realistically, they might win 2 games. No shit, 2-14. That's really all I can see for them. And then the last team, Jaguars, like you said, they're an interesting team. They could either be a 10-win team or a 5-win team. I really don't know what they're going to be. I don't know what Urban Meyer is going to bring to the table. It's going to be interesting to see. He's been out of football for a while, never coached in the NFL. I don't know if he's going to be acclimated to the NFL offenses and defenses. I know he had some great defenses there at Ohio State. I'll say that much. I know for a fact he did. It's just, will his game plan be able to translate to the NFL level? And especially going to have to play in a conference where you're going to have to play against Tannehill, Henry, Jonathan Taylor, now Carson Wentz under Frank Reich, and possibly even Deshaun Watson. Like, that's going to be rough. That's going to be 6 games a season where you're going to be playing against some elite talent on offense. So going to be interesting to see. Again, I'm going to say they're going to go 7-9. I kind of believe in Urban Meyer, but I still don't think their team is nowhere near complete enough around Trevor Lawrence, who I think they're going to take on offense. I don't think they got anywhere near the talent receivers they need. They don't have any of that yet. So I think they'll go 7-9. I think there'll be a pretty sound defense. I think it's going to take more than 1 year for Urban Meyer to get adjusted to this NFL, but once he does, again, he's a legendary coach. I think he'll get it rolling.
Yeah. They are, if the Texans do keep Deshaun Watson, they've got a chance in any game. You look at how lucky it was against us twice last year. You've got no matter how bad that team gets, he just seems to keep them in games. So that's something they have to watch out for. As much as we're going to say, oh, the Texans are a hot mess, in a divisional game, it all goes out the window. And anyone can beat anyone. Look at the Browns and the Steelers. It's just one of them crazy things. That's why it's football, and that's why I love it. Now the Chiefs, interesting team. I'm going to finish the show off on the off season. It's hard to get content, but the Chiefs. Obviously, we saw in the Super Bowl why offensive linemen need to get paid a lot more than what they do, because Patty Mahomes was running for his life on every single play. But my question is, are the Chiefs now going to struggle to get back on top?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce are on that offense, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think they're still they're the team to beat. They still got a target on their back, in my opinion. Even though the Buccaneers won the championship, they were a few offensive linemen away from not winning that championship on the Chiefs side. That's really just the reality of it. 29 pressures in one game is the most in NFL history. That's fucking ludicrous, man. If I was Patrick Mahomes and I was looking at my GM, I'd be like, you either protect me or I'm gone. There's 29 pressures in the Super Bowl. You work the whole season to get there just for that. That was disgusting. But, just that's what I'm thinking. I still think they're the team to beat. Finding offensive linemen is kind of I don't want to say the easiest thing to do, but there's a lot of guys that can come in and be productive in the league. Yeah. So, and again, they had 2 injuries as well. They had an injury to Eric Fisher and the other guy, both of them all pro level players at the tackle position. Whenever you're missing guys like that, it's going to hurt any day of the week. It's always going to hurt. So, hopefully they get back to their playing level. I kind of like Patrick Mahomes because he was what do you call it? He was like the Darth Vader He was like the Darth Vader when Tom Brady was Darth Vader. You know, he like came in and he looked like the guy that just looked unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then he played Darth Vader and lost to Darth Vader when he was Darth Vader. You know, it's just rough. It was rough for him. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's young. You know, he's got $400 million, $500 million coming to him in the next 10 years. I think he'll be all right. I think he's still going to be a guy people are gunning to beat.
And the only reason I say that, you know, I watched the Pat McAfee show, and it was interesting to see. You know, he turned around and said, you know, after we lost to the Bears and Drew Brees in the 2008 Super Bowl, he said he thought it was going to be simply we run it back next year, and it's that simple. And you look, ever since that Super Bowl loss, we just haven't been able to get back to the promised land. And that's what makes me cautious for Chiefs fans is it's not as easy as it looks just to run it back.
Yeah, there's a lot of working pieces there. There's a lot of working pieces. We had a Bob Sanders. As much as people love to hate on him, Booger McFarland was actually a damn good nose tackle at one point in his career. He played for us in 2008.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of moving pieces to winning the Super Bowl. Now, the Buccaneers, what they produced this year, I will almost guarantee you they will not replicate next year.
Yeah.
There's just so much. And I was kind of a guy that's saying the Buccaneers weren't going to do it this year, but you know, by the end of the season, it was just vastly apparent to me. They had 3 wide receiver number ones. They had a tight end that was a number 1. You know, they had a top 5 offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had a top 10 defensive line. The number 1 linebacker core. Like it was just like once I looked at it on paper and on film, I was like, damn, this team is good. And there's no way they can pay them again. No way. You know, Godwin, something's got to give. Someone's got to be gone on that team. So, that being said, we might see Brady go somewhere else. We don't even know if Brady's going to stay in Tampa Bay. I don't know if he said he's going to stay in Tampa Bay. I haven't seen anything about that, but you know, we could see Brady going to another organization, maybe even Washington, if they can somehow end up getting some wide receivers there. He might ball out there.
Okay, so this is, I promise, my final point because I've been saying that for the past 3 points now, but this is my final point because it just re-popped into my memory. We turned Tom Brady down. Now, you can say what you want. The money was there. You know, Tom's agent said he'd talked to the Colts. Chris Ballard flat out turned around and said, no, he's not our guy. Is that just personal? I mean, is that Chris Ballard saying nobody's bigger than the team? Or is that Chris Ballard saying, if I take Tom Brady and it doesn't work out, the Colts fans are going to sacrifice me and run me out of town?
I don't know. At the time, I think it was just age, maybe. I mean, again, I don't know. That's a tough question. Did you see Tom Brady having the year he had this year? Did you think he was going to be like this? Nah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't either. I was like, Tom Brady's fucking washed, dude. That dude's done.
Yeah.
That was my honest opinion of it. Like, just looking at how he played the year before. You know, he looked decent, but he didn't look great. I understand he didn't have weapons, but this is supposed to be Tom Brady, the foretold. You know, like he's supposed to be that guy. He's supposed to be the beast, and then he just didn't look good. So I was like, well, I mean, Ballard might have dodged a bullet there, but apparently not. Apparently, he goes down there and plays in Bruce Arians' system and looks like just the absolute best player in the world. So, you know, I guess hats off to him for taking care of his body the way he does. Whatever he does, you know, kind of like he's probably doing what LeBron James is doing. Just whatever, you know, LeBron James still being productive now. Him and Tom Brady probably have some like secret medical facility they go to.
Anyway, we have been talking football and especially Colts football for nearly 50 minutes now. Unless you've got anything to add, Xavier, I think we'll call it a day there.
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's been a good talk.
Yeah, it's been a good talk. We have been UK Colts fans. You can find Xavier at...
You can find me on Twitter at I'm the HOA. Find me on YouTube at High Octane Analysis. That's ANALYSIS. And that's it.
Yeah, excellent. You can find us at UK Colts Fans. Big shout out to the show sponsor, as always, Northern Summit Clothing. You can check them out on Instagram, Twitter, Etsy.